Thanks for staying with us. We have this morning joining us Major General Adofiko, retired, who is a former Secretary General of the Retired Army, Navy, and Air Force Officers Association now. He joins us virtually. Thanks so much for joining us this morning, General. Well, one of the things that I find very disheartening this morning is what we find on the front page of one of the papers about a report, from the Bismarck Rwanda-led organization that says about 400 Nigerians were murdered by Boko Haram and bandits as well as herdsmen between January and April this year. That is most troubling, wouldn't you say?
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me to this conversation this morning. Good morning, Nigerians. And first of all, permit me to say that this time is a sad moment in our history. This time is a sad moment in our development. And first, let me correct that promotion you gave to me. I'm a retired major, not major general. And it's really heart-sinking to, be part of the history that is unfolding for Nigeria. Again, by the expressions in one of our notable scriptures, Christian scripture, the Bible, to be precise, it says, if the foundation is faulty, what can the righteous do? After independence, we inherited a setup, a societal setup that unconsciously we eroded the basic values that should have, grown the nation to the aspired heights we had thought. Let me just cite a very simple illustration. In the cities that began to subsequently develop, basic security sensitive and security related development processes like street names, house numberings, neighborhood checks were gradually off the scene. It got to a level where even the cartographic expression of Nigeria became gradually obliterated, not just from the school learning system, but even from the mental image of the average Nigerian. And to the point now that hundreds of people get killed and we operate as if nothing has happened. In my little way this morning, I'm wearing black because Nigeria is bleeding. I'm wearing black because there is a need for us to reestablish that understanding of nationhood, that understanding of nationality. So if you look at it from that perspective, it is more than the military combat solution, which is like our seeming last resort now. It is a thing for a complete, total review of our social cultural value system. And let us begin to think together as a nation, as a people, that look, what is in our hands is everybody's baby. And if we hold that onto it, the market woman will be concerned, the farmer will be concerned, the traditional ruler will be concerned, the politician will be concerned, and we will all look at it as a common problem, a common challenge. Not just something where we wait for somebody to give us solutions. There is nobody, and I want to say this loud and clear. Internal security matters never get solved by international intervention. Rather, they help either to postpone or accentuate whatever is on ground for you. And so based on that, I want to think that this is a time for us to do an internal check, a look inwards and ask ourselves, what can we do? The ordinary man on the street, what can I do to help? The man in the offices, the government officials, what can we do to help? The market women, what can we do to help? What is in our hands now does not know religion. What is in our hands now does not know ethnicity. What is in our hands now does not even know your physical size, tall, short, child, elderly. It consumes everybody. And for that reason, I want to see us now approach security management no longer from the symptomic expressions and analysis we've been on to, but more to the causative reasonings for the.
Well, Major, there was some,
what is in our hands now.
Just one moment, Major. Just one moment. There was something you said earlier that I think I'd like for you to expatiate a little more. When you say that you want all of us to be concerned, the religious leaders to be concerned, politicians to be concerned, and all of that, does that mean that we haven't shown enough concern, or we haven't acted like we are concerned?
If you ask me for a straight answer, I will tell you yes. And let me explain what I mean by concern. Concern is not a shout about the symptomic experiences we are going through. Concern is a legitimate, honest understanding and expression of what we believe should be a necessary action. For example, in a nation like ours, take the Southeast. That suddenly Southeast came on fire, and everybody is looking towards the curative action point of, go there, crush them, and get these bastards out of wherever they are. That is the symptomic approach to it. The causative approach to it is society as a community. Where did we get it wrong? Where can we begin to address the issues that have culminated into the present situation we are in? I'll give you a very typical one. There were an incident in April. You woke up one morning, a bunch of guys came around. There were not two, there were not three. And in 20s and 30s, and they invaded the police headquarters. They invaded the correctional services center, that is the prisons, and so on and so forth. And they get away, and we classify them unknown gunmen. And this is an urban experience, not a rural one. So these are the areas I feel the society as a whole, we should call ourselves. Let me use the phrase that may sound a little bit awkward. We should call ourselves to order and ask ourselves the question, where are we not getting right? Where did we miss it? So that we can begin to, it's not enough to begin to, to chorister out, one Nigeria, let's live together, let's learn to tolerate one another. Who are you tolerating? How much do you know of the person you are tolerating? This is the nation that we've been operating. We've never gotten basic items like national census. We've never gotten it right. Basic social activity like elections. If you go, a local government election this day is like war. A state government election is like war. These are symptomic expressions of a faulty foundation. That is why I said the concern should be more than what we are doing now. The blame games and all that you see, there are symptomatic reactions here and there. The causative reasoning is, where did we miss the basic elements of a society that is defining itself as a nation and working itself to a progressive end? That is my concept of concern.
Well, Major, it's a little, I'm a little concerned. Yes, I can hear you, but you've talked about symptomic as well as causative factors. We'll get to that one. But when you say that, everyone should be concerned, that the local people should be concerned, I'm at a loss, and I'll tell you why. We say, you security agents and consultants tell us, all crime is local. But at the same time, most environments, most local environments have lived with each other peaceably for so many years. Just over the weekend, for instance, we had a conversation with a professor, a visiting professor from the US, and he said he went to a very remote part of Oyo town, which he calls Oyoile, and that he was living among, guess who? A group of Fulanis who have been there for decades, several decades. He lived there, he just pitched his tent among them, and they lived with him. He said he didn't lose as much as a pin. Not a pin, not a pen. Nothing he took there did he lose in 2 straight weeks that he was there. He's an archaeologist. So if local people are that peaceable in environments where they are not indigenous per se, but they emigrated, that they've been there for decades. I mean, these are Fulanis according to the professor. And we have pockets of such experiences all over the nation. So when you talk about causative factors, exactly what can we say are the causative factors? Because it will seem like, on the one hand, most locals live peaceably together. On the other hand, some locals don't live peaceably with one another. So exactly what would be these causative factors you're talking about?
Now, when I talk about causative factors, I want to tell you demographically that an adult in Nigeria, 40 years and below now, does not have the geographical consciousness of the space called Nigeria in his mind. Why is that so? That is so because we have eroded our educational system to the point that geography is no longer a prime study for our understanding of our environment. Education is all about understanding your environment and making maximum use of the resources nature or God has provided. But in that little aspect, you find that how does that affect the thinking and the psychology of the moment? It affects the thinking and the psychology of the moment from the grounds that 5 persons are killed in Zamfara. The guy who is probably in Taraba, it doesn't make any meaning to him. He does not have that heart going for what is going on there. If you similarly, you have a flood incident reported in Cross River or somewhere in Bayelsa, it does not make any meaning to somebody who is probably sitting on the high stones like me here on the plateau. These are the basic causative value connectivity that we must, as a people, begin to deliberately work on. What is going for us in the local communities all this while was that these communities, one, had a case of pedantic disposition in which ignorance was a major product, and so there was no awareness, and this awareness is improving by the day. Unfortunately for us in the country, our awareness is not in the positive direction. Our awareness is in the negative, trying to redefine the I in the minds of everybody, the me, the ours in the minds of everybody. These are positive value, concerns.
What's government supposed to have done that hasn't been done over the years? You would recall, Major, for instance, that after the Civil War, the government of the day said to keep Nigeria one is a task that must be done. So what were those things that may have been lost at the time that were initiated but should have been sustained? One of the attempts by government of the day to unify Nigeria, so to speak, was the National Youth Service Corps, which, every student is supposed to go to completely different parts of the country from where they were or where they studied, just so that they can touch base with different communities. So if that kind of thing was there something we missed along the way, or some things that ought to have been added? Or is it that program that wasn't executed well enough? Exactly what have we missed doing over the years?
Now, first of all, let me quickly correct the fact that that slogan, To keep Nigeria one, a task that must be done, did not come after the Civil War. It was during the Civil War. You know, when we began with go on with one Nigeria, and to keep Nigeria one is a task that must be done. To keep Nigeria one is still a task that needs to be done. But what we did not do after that was a deliberate conscientialization. In other words, a deliberate indoctrination program that will concretize that slogan into the hearts of Nigeria. Look, immediately after the Civil War, yes, there was physical reintegration. Yes, the eastern part of the country was fully back on stream, you know, and there was, you know, inflow, the demographic mix-up, you know, all that, which was okay. But then the elements, the fundamental elements of that social indoctrination was not done. That we are having the impact today. A lot of children will jump up. I call them children. They jump up. You call them IPOB, you call them this, you call them militants. They jump up, they say, oh, I want Biafra. I was having a chat recently with a group of people, and I asked them, have you really sat down to know that Biafra is not a tribe? They say, what are you talking about, sir? I said, Biafra is not a tribe. That Biafra is a geographical expression, the bite of Biafra. And if you're going to talk about Biafra as an enclave, you want to accommodate those that border that particular geographical expression, you might be going down to Equatorial Guinea and part of probably northwestern Angola. But all the same, the truth of the matter is that there were the elements that caused that civil war. Those elements, we never brought them to the fore for discussion. We never brought them to the fore for correction, as the case might be. And so we continue to polish an already distorted foundation. That is what I mean by a causative reasoning. We need to go back. If you can hear the language that is going on now, it is still a reflection. I cite an illustration that is probably may not be too conversant to you, the younger generation. What was it? In 1966, the first reaction was that Araba, let us divide Nigeria. Again, we got a military government that wanted us to run Nigeria as a unitary outfit. We turned around, we said, no. Araba will not hold. When the Biafran and Bruhaha came up, we said, no. Araba will not hold. Let us stay together. 25 years, in fact, I would say 30 years after the Civil War, that same seeming experience of 1966 manifested itself. Suddenly, a group of fellows from Kano jumped up one morning and said they gave until October 1, certain section of the country should vacate. Vacate where? We are singing the same language. And that is why I feel that look, there is a need for us to get out of this symptomic approach. Rather than deal with the issues as they are coming, let us sit down and say, look, where did we miss it? Nigeria is not an accident. By the divine understanding and by even the geographical understanding, Nigeria is not an accident. There is no aspect of Nigeria that, if you want economically, that is poor. Every state, every portion of this country has a potential of becoming great. But the way it has been packaged by the Almighty Creator, this greatness can only come up when we work together. Now, you want to talk about the causative element. Let me give you another one that will touch you. It is not today that we know that the management of our boundaries, the physical management of our boundaries, have been deficient for long. Infiltration has remained an easy something. We reduced it to a smuggling issue and left the customs grappling with a very serious issue that could traumatize the country the way we are expecting now. Look, it's sad to feel and to know that in my community and in various other communities like you cited, We have lived with the Fulanis for years. We know them for what they are. They come in, they graze, they go back, we welcome them when they come, and when they are going, we say goodbye, enjoy in peace, in love. But how suddenly that has turned around? We have a band of group that have now professionalized violence and are running around the forests, the same routes that these are peace-loving ones had been operating on. These are things that call for, what did we not do right? If you ask me, we did not control, we did not manage our population, we did not understand our physical disposition on the ground with that common vision towards a united people for a purposeful living as a nation. Nigeria, look, with a little change in solving this causative distortion, I tell you, no nation will contest with Nigeria. You can see it from the individual performances here and there. So, by way of summary, enough of this emphasis on the symptom. Yes, as I'm talking to you, I'm glad from your news and newspaper review this morning, I heard how the military is doing all they can. Yes, as they crack down on these elements from section to section, the rest of the country should begin to consciously begin to look inwards and ask ourselves the question, what role can I play to cement, to complement the efforts these young men and women out there? I'm not talking now more of from the part of the military family. I'm talking more from the part of development. What role can we play? How can we improve our development? Look, like I keep saying this. If you travel to a place like Menchika, which I had lived as a youth, or you go to a place like Gomborungala, these are border towns. If you go to those areas in the northeast, you will not believe you are still in the Nigeria you see on TV in Lagos. You will not believe you are still in the Nigeria you see in Ibadan. You will not believe you are still in the Nigeria you see in Abuja. These are fundamental causative issues. We should have a definite program for a kind of, like somebody put it in one of your discussions recently. He said, we have lacked harmonized development program. In the United States, for example, if you fly from New York on the East Coast to Los Angeles on the West Coast, you will notice that the states you go through, there is a semblance. It may not be equal, but there is a semblance of a common structure. The depth of the development of that may differ, but that semblance would be there. Do we have that today?
Yes, General, Major, it would seem like we are a very long way from the ideal that you are talking about, but most certainly we seem to be on the way there. I don't know if you agree with that one, but there are a number of other issues that I'd like to take you up on. Only we'll do that after this break. Please stay with us. Major Gabriel Adiofiku is still with us this morning. Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, Major, let me ask you this. I mean, from the report that you have seen, attack on installations of security personnel seems to be a thing, especially in the southeast, and a number of other places, which some would point to October last year as the time it really got to a head. Now, when we first of all, what's your take on that one? Because I would assume that intelligence information must have gone out far and wide before these things would happen. And then they happen, and it looks like we were caught unawares. What's your take on that?
Well, to say the least, thank you again for that clip. You see, that clip reestablishes the position I had expressed before on the causative factor affecting security management in our country today. First of all, when there was NSAS, it was clear we knew that there was an aspect of the police activity that the society were a little bit uncomfortable and so reacted. But when you have an organized open attack on the institution called the police, the institution called the correctional center, as we just saw on that urban congested Owerri attack, it is clearly an issue, just like the vice president put it very diplomatically. He said it's an attack on the welfare. And look, it is a challenge to nationhood. It is a challenge to our existence as a people in the 21st century. If you replace the police with what? If you replace the armed forces with what? If you begin to attack those that are supposed and are constitutionally established to protect you and give you the desired favorable environment to conduct the art of living, then of course you are not, what you are looking for is anarchy. What you are looking for, to say the least, is a non-existent society. However, permit me to say that that incident in Owerri is not just dangerous, it's a thing that it has placed us on a very precarious pedestrian in the development process of this country. Can you believe it? Looking at that crowd there, I call them a crowd of such persons came in so many vehicles, attacked, and you still call them unknown gunmen. They took a route, nobody traced where they came from, nobody traced where they went to, what routes they passed. I give you a very simple illustration of what I'm talking about. Sometime way back in the early 80s, we were in UK, and there was an incident in London, a robbery on the street, and the guy vanished. Then there weren't closed circuit TV, CCTVs and all that. And in the course of, investigation, one of the policemen doing what you call scene checks was called over by an old lady in her, house upstairs on the balcony. He said, hey, you guys doing some investigation on that? They said, yes, that incident. She said, yes. Said, come, I got something for you. And she brought out her small camera. She was there taking her sunshine, but with her camera by her side, she took shots. And with the pictures she gave, the security were able to trace it. That is where there is a support, a combined support from the society. Go to that scene where that incident took place. Ask anybody there, can you even describe one of those guys who was jumping into the pickup and jumping down? And they will tell you, some will tell you he's as short as anything. Some will tell you he's as tall. Because we have not been consensualized, that is, our sense of security has not been developed as a society to understand that. And I think on one of your programs, I did cite another illustration when I stepped over from Mubi into one of the local communities in the Cameroons, a few kilometers away from our boundary. And within 30 minutes, the local head of the gendarmes was able to come to me and ask, sorry, we hear you've been here for about an hour or so. Can we have an idea what you've come for? That is the cooperation that we need. Many would say, no, that you are imposing, you are frustrating on the fundamental right. The fundamental rights of everybody borders, it borders on the existential requirements of everybody. So for that, I think we're on a dangerous platform. I hear it's expanding. The news items are telling me in Akwa Ibom, some police stations and all. NSAS is a different piece of cake. They came up clearly to tell us what it was all about. But this one now, for me, is nothing but a drive towards anarchy and must be crushed as urgently as we can and with all the capacity we need to put an end to it. there must be no further urban unnamed gunmen. That is my position. And
Well,
they didn't do it in the night. It was a daylight operation.
Well, Major, aren't you also
So,
concerned that these acts, though ending up like pretty much the same way of people being killed and all of that, we have a situation where we call some bandits, we call some kidnappers, we call some herdsmen, we call some Boko Haram. It would seem like the crime, the nomenclature of the crimes are shape-shifting, but the ultimate end is the same. There are those who also, propounding theories out there that this is something being planned by some forces behind the scene, and that this is just happening, and these things are not unknown. So, the question then that it raises are some of the things that you have said. It will look as if we are dealing with something that we are not aware of. Meanwhile, part of the causative factors that you talked about, governors, even the federal government have said that one of the things responsible for the situation we have on our hands is unemployment. So I'm wondering how all of these things that you have talked about, harmonize into the economic gains or losses that have come as a result of this insecurity.
Okay. Yeah. Now that you've talked about unemployment, let me give you my side of it that not many have discussed. Way back some 35 years ago when I was an undergraduate and, graduating from the university after my first degree, I had 6 employment opportunities. And I knew that was not good. Why was it not good? It was not good because it was clear to me that the society may not sustain that stride. I had 6 employment opportunities. In less than 20 years after that, young graduates would come out of the university for 3, 4, 5 years and would be looking for a job to do. That establishes the false platform of the economic basis we were operating. 2, this is a country where there is no statistical culture, to the point that there is a test when I do management training for very senior executives. There is a test I give to people whom I feel have come into the hall with a highly inflated impression of themselves. I put it this way. I ask them, please, how many of us in this auditorium have written records, inventory of the items in our homes? My brother, out of 100, I have never had more than 2. You're going to ask me, what has that got to do with our present security situation? The fellow who cannot manage a few is now managing trillions in terms of economic definition. The fellow who cannot manage a few, he now talks, the local government chairman, who has never had, in his lifetime, he had never worked articulately to raise probably ₦1 million. He has ₦1 billion budget, and he has no idea how the structural framework with which they dispose of this kind of funding. These are the causative fundamental issues that are in our hands. Now, when you talk about masterminds behind this crisis, I know the security agencies must be working hard to unveil some of this. My only prayer to God for them is that may they have the courage, may the government have the courage to present these findings to the public so that we will know them. And when we know them, we may not cause them to be executed, but that we know them will establish the falsity in the false identity we parade ourselves with. I can tell you that there are many people who come around. I'm scared to call them the title they want me to call them, because these ones I know cannot be affiliated that kind of or actually attach that kind of title they call themselves. For example, somebody who disappeared, he says he went on oil and gas. And I know from some of my operations that he was nothing but just a coastal thief somewhere, stealing our oil. And then he comes around with the big money he's made, he becomes an honorable. And I find it difficult reconciling my knowledge of him with his honorability. Secondly, all those, I want you to pick my language this time. All those palliative names we give to insurgents, we give to violence agents in our society. Boko Haram, bandits, militant herdsmen, whatever we call them, unknown gunmen, the summary of it is that they are bloody killers. And killers of innocent citizens should be hunted down and brought to book according to the law of this nation. Enough of the fanciful definitions for them. What we need to do now, allow the security agencies to do their job as they are doing their job. Complement the efforts they are making by making your non-lethal support activities. What I want to hear Nigerians do now is generate, we are very creative people, generate activities nationwide, both in the rural and in the urban areas, to support these curative efforts of the armed forces and the police and all the paramilitary. Let us bring these agents of soul-snatching killers to a halt. That is what we need now.
Yeah. Well, there is something that you said that I am 101% with you on, and I believe every Nigerian would be as well. And that is the fact that security agencies should be able to identify the masterminds, as you call them, of these issues that we're having on our hands, and have the courage to do with them the needful. That I'm most certainly looking forward to. But for now, we have to thank you very much for being a part of this conversation.
Thank you.
Major Gabriel Adofiko, retired.
Thank you for promoting. Yeah. Thank you for promoting me in retirement.
He's former Secretary General, retired Army, Navy, and Air Force Officers Association. Thank you so much for your time and thoughts.
Thank you. God bless.
Yeah. So Sunrise Daily is back in a moment. Do stay with us.